And so has UK. Now, the second one is shocking, but this is not the age of Churchill. I will say the UK has been very, very uncooperative.
Good afternoon, Jack Carter here on UK Pulse. Listen, we've woken up to a spat that's suddenly testing something a lot of us assumed was fixed, the so-called special relationship between London and Washington. Trump yesterday blasted Sir Keir, said he was not Winston Churchill, questioned Britain's commitment, and at the same time there's a row over whether our bases were available to the US for the opening strikes on Iran. Is this a bit of bluster or a real rupture? That's the question today. Grab yourself a brew and let's get into it. Right, let me set out the headlines straight away and plainly. The US and Israel began strikes aimed at degrading Iran's strike capability. At first, the UK declined to make British bases available for those offensive operations. Starmer's line was simple: we won't support regime change from the skies. Iran retaliated, and the situation escalated. Then, days later, Britain allowed the US the use of UK bases, but for what ministers called defensive strikes against Iranian missile sites. That pivot matters. It's not just semantics. Okay, deep breath. Walk with me through the timeline. First, the initial strikes by the US and Israel. Our government's initial refusal to sanction the use of UK bases for the first wave was rooted in principle. Starmer said he wouldn't sign up to an operation aimed at toppling a regime from the air. That's a clear political decision. Then Iran reacted. Missile launches, threats, the kind of tit-for-tat that years ago we feared could spiral. That raised immediate security questions for bases, personnel, shipping lanes, and, crucially, global energy markets. Short, yes. What changed was this. Ministers later agreed to let US forces use UK bases for what were described as defensive strikes, targeting Iranian missile sites, posing an imminent threat. That's a significant operational shift because it puts British facilities and personnel into more direct proximity with kinetic action, even if ministers want to draw a legal and rhetorical line between offensive regime change missions and defensive actions. And here's the political rub. Donald Trump publicly piled in, calling Sir Keir not Churchill and saying he's not happy with Britain. It's performative, sure, but it lands.
And so has UK. Now, the second one is shocking, but this is not the age of Churchill. I will say the UK has been very, very uncooperative with that stupid island that they have, that they gave away and took a 100-year lease, having to do with perhaps indigenous people claiming the island that never even saw the island before. What's that all about? And they ruin relationships. It's a shame.
How does that look in Moscow, Beijing, Brussels, and among our NATO partners? Does it make Britain look diminished, a junior partner being shouted at by a US president? Or does it show Britain has the spine to say no when we disagree with an opening move from Washington? Let's be blunt. The opposition in Parliament says Starmer looks indecisive, first refusing, then allowing use of bases. The counter from Downing Street and Starmer's supporters is that restraint was responsible. Don't be dragged into initiating an expanding war. That's not weakness, that's caution. Which do you prefer, Churchillian charge or disciplined strategy? What would Churchill do? It's tempting to answer, but history's easier to quote than to live. Now, for the stuff that affects your life. This isn't just Westminster theatre. When tensions with Iran spike, oil traders react, prices go up. We all know what that means: higher petrol at the pump, higher heating bills, and added costs in supply chains that trickle down to supermarket prices. For households already stretched, even a few pence on petrol or a higher gas bill over winter is felt. And security. There was a suspected Iranian drone strike on the UK base in Cyprus. Minor damage reported, no casualties. But that's a warning shot. Defense Secretary John Healey has been clear the terror threat assessment is absolutely under review. When officials say a threat level could be moved to substantial, they mean an attack is likely. Not certain, but likely. That changes deployments, it changes patrols, it changes where our troops and sailors are put at risk. Listen, I don't want to be alarmist. Don't cancel your trips, don't panic, but do be mindful. Keep travel insurance up to date, check Foreign Office guidance, and be aware of heightened vigilance at ports and airports. Businesses should be hedging fuel costs where possible. Households should be planning for modest increases to household bills. That's practical, not panicked. Right. We also have to think about Britain's standing. If Trump's broadside sticks in the media and in diplomatic back channels, it could reduce Britain's leverage in Washington. On the other hand, standing aside from the first offensive could be read as moral leadership, a refusal to be a poodle. Which message wins in the minds of international partners? NATO allies will watch closely, the EU too. Some will admire restraint, others will worry about unity in a crisis when quick coordination is needed. You know, I keep coming back to this. Foreign policy is not just high moral argument, it's about protecting lives and livelihoods at home. Every decision on bases, strikes, words in the Tory benches or in American tweets, it all feeds into risk to staff, cost of living, and the UK's diplomatic hand. So, and here's where you come in. Is Sir Keir showing leadership by avoiding automatic involvement and then adjusting to defend British assets? Or is he wobbling under pressure? From Trump, from hawks in Westminster, from the squalls of 24/7 media? Do you think the later permission for defensive use of bases was the right, cautious move or a capitulation? Tell me. Send a message in the comments. Say who you are, where you're from, and your verdict. Or just say right move or wrong move and why. I want rural farmers, city commuters, service staff, soldiers' families. Your take matters. Quick note. We'll keep a special bulletin running online, prices at the pumps, any changes to threat levels, and the exact language of Downing Street's latest legal advice on base usage. I'll flag it in future videos. Alright, to finish, this could be just a noisy spat between leaders, or it could be a pivot in how America treats Britain in crises. If you're asking me, I think it's both. An episode of loud presidential rhetoric and a test for our diplomacy. Stay sharp, keep your family plans sensible, keep an eye on the prices, and please send those voice notes. If you like me content, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Please stay safe. I'll be back with updates on UK Pulse. That's it for now.